started off early, and I'll talk about my career a little bit. Started off early with him, and he showed up, and I said, well, crap, there actually is somebody out there that is, a really true friend, and that for years. And so, but everybody else is friends. I mean, I guess we're all friends. I don't know.
Yes, we are.
So that'll help me. I got all my notes here, so I'll be able to go through everything, and I got a good way of, if I was ever to lose this, nobody would be able to figure it out. So that's all good. Thanks the Paul Bay Chamber of Commerce. I mean, this is kind of a fun opportunity for me to come up and talk about innovation, things that I really have a lot of passion in. I mean, a career of passion. It's always good, the Space Coast, Association for Technology and Innovation. I mean, that kind of drive a lot of stuff. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why this is the hub of technology that everybody may not actually realize just how important this particular area is, and specifically, Brevard County. I think I'll go on to the next slide. I'll talk a little bit, introduce myself a little bit, but what I'm going to take you through today is talk, at least if you walk away with a good understanding of what the Space Force Association does and what we're trying to do and some of the events and things. A little bit about the Florida chapter. I'm going to talk a little bit about innovation from my perspective, about what I think are some of the hot buttons and what's kind of evolving. They change from day to day, but I mean, there's initiatives that are going on from with our government and spaceports, and this area is right in the hub of a lot of that. So I'll talk to some of that, and then I'll try to wrap it all up, and I'll take any questions. Two questions, or no questions, one of the two, anyway. So, well, before I start, I guess I should, I'll talk a little bit about myself. And what kind of shaped me from the value of what I can talk to, innovators or people who started up a company and those kind of things. I grew up in a sewer contractor family. There was 5 different families. If you went to school, you went to military, then you came out and you started a sewer contract business. And what that taught me was they always had a good, you might say, strategic plan was that, poop don't run upstream and payday's on Friday. And so, it's pretty simple, the mission statement. But what it really taught me was, bid collusion, how that works, which is not always a good lesson, but, how simple bid contracting, from this town to this town and your competition and how all that goes to, comes to bear. It actually formulated a lot about what any kind of career success I had earlier on, because I understood why would you not look at, back then they called them the Dodge reports, and you look at the Dodge reports and say, what new business is coming up? What are we going to bid on? And there's always that opportunity when somebody else's bid is open, and inevitably they can never do the work, but they end up doing it. And so there's a lot of ingrained lessons learned that I applied later. If I fast forward, as we talked about, I retired out of a small startup called Northrop Grumman, which was an amazing experience. Prior to that, I did work for Tom back there, and he taught me a lot of foundational things. But at Northrop, we installed 32-meter dishes in Australia, ran an air traffic control company over in the UK. We built out all the wideband global SATCOM infrastructure across the United States and enabled the WGS satellite. Talked a little bit about, I ran the Distributed Mission Operations Network, which has basically simulators and systems that does live virtual constructing all around the world for the Air Force. Amazing contract, 24/7, 7 days a week. They're doing exercises across the globe, really, and it's really expanding. So that was that kind of shaped me a little bit. When I looked at this, I was talking to a high school, because I kind of helped some of the high school kids learn about their career. We did have one time when we had a speaker come in before a big job was Evel Knievel. And everybody said, so I had to talk about Evel Knievel most of the time. So that's my biggest claim to fame at Northrop, was I brought in Evel Knievel. And he got to talk. It's tough when you have a speaker who does nothing but has a like 15, 20 minutes of falling down on a motorcycle. Then he comes in a room, and it was pretty impressive. He was good. From Northrop Grumman, I took on a vice president general manager role for a really niche technology company that took a technology from DARPA and needed to go to high volume manufacturing. And I went from large systems that you could see, touch, and feel to manufacturing of millimeter wave componentry, where you say, come look at your product, and you have to get in a clean room and you have to look at it. I was told it's booger parts, little bitty parts that go into broader things. And so the main mission there was to take that DARPA technology again to where you could lower the price through high volume manufacturing. So we built out an 80,000 square foot facility up in Durham, North Carolina, and got with the state. The state funded it and went through it, and that's really rocking now today and going into a lot of major systems. From there, I did a stint with private equity, which is essential to everybody. I called it writing term papers, but you're always looking at companies. You're always looking at the sweet spot of companies. I never learned, the 125 to 175 route. If you grow your company to 125, you'll start to be looked at. 175, those are sweet spots of getting bought, but there's a long road to get there, and how you project to those kind of things. So there's a lot of learning from the private equity side. Got to be part of companies buying certain companies and helping CEOs work through a lot of that was good. Talked about, I was also a vice president within Parsons, and that kind of got me into what you call this spaceport infrastructure. Parsons is has a big part of their corporation is infrastructure, and so a lot of what's going on in the base. And then I sit on a lot of different technology boards, space weather, propulsion, optical communications, optical ground to SATCOM. Some of them are in the UK, one to be the United States, some are in Australia, some are here. But the one thing that all those companies have in common, they have great technology, they're doing this, but they don't have the connections that they need to get the word out about where they're trying to go. And so, if anything, I'm going to try to talk about is how do you network with other people and get the word out about your technology, and who knows, every day half a life is showing up where you're going to go as far as a business and a technology. You're going to have somebody that's either going to take you to another place or interface. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk a little bit about, or I hope that's kind of a takeaway from everything. Okay, how many people know about the Space Force, the United States Space Force? Wow, that's pretty good. Well, according to the Chief of Space Operations, Deputy Chief of Space Operations, only 11% of the American population know about the Space Force. They don't, that's 87% of the people don't know. So that's kind of part of our mission set. It's good that everybody knows here. It's great. How many people know about the Space Force Association prior to today? Okay. Well, I'm going to try to fix that a little bit anyway. Okay, what is the Space Force Association? And I'll hit on really key areas. The three is research, advocate, and inform. But at the end of the day, our mission set really is, we're a central organization that focuses on the Space Force. You've heard of the Air Force Association. Well, we're the Space Force Association. And our whole goal and mission, what makes me probably more passionate about it, is we actually get to help out the Space Force, the Guardians, and their mission set and where they're going. It's probably one of the most dynamic organizations that, military organizations that you've ever known, because they're one of the few that actually will probably never see their adversary. But they're a warfighting operation, and they're getting a lot of, eventually, they're you might consider the high ground for everything that's going on in defending our country. So it's really great. We do research, and I'll talk a little bit about how we support the Forge and other things, other technology initiatives. We advocate. I'm going up to Tallahassee here in a couple weeks, and we talk about the talking points of what consistently helps the Space Force, where they're going, and the mission set, naturally protect budgets, those kind of things. And then, if there's only, 11% of the population, we want to inform and advocate and get the message out about the Space Force. Started in this job about 2.5 years ago. I think it is. There's been 3. I don't know. 3? Okay, 3 years ago I was vice president, working under a great president, and we started the organization with 3, and now we're over 340. I think today I looked at we're almost 380 members in Florida here in local county. So that's kind of exciting, and so we have growth and energy going. I think. I'm trying to think, I did go to, we're one of the few organizations dedicated to the Space Force, but we're growing, and I think just go to the next slide here. Sometimes visuals, I think, probably speak, more than words, but over that 3 years, I think I can only move here, and I can't move, I can move all the way over here. I can talk.
Too far out, yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I said, I can't really see what it is. Let me pull this back for you.
Well, anyway, there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of things. It was tough to talk about this type of slide, but there's just so many events, so many engagements that the Space Force has allowed me, our leadership team, our associated companies, and other companies to get together and do certain things. There's some pictures at the Forge. There's the T-minus 10-mile run we've supported. Done interviews with some of the best leaders within the Space Force. And the Space Force Association allows us to do that kind of interface. And so, there's just, I think pictures speak a lot. We're highly engaged. We run a golf tournament every year as part of the Space Power, and General Saltzman plays at that. And that's always fun when you get a 4-star playing, and he enjoys it. And he's allowed to actually interface with a lot of industry in that, in an environment that is conducive to talking. There's a lot of activities and things that we're doing. I'm just going to hit on, I think we already talked about it, but out here at the Space Museum, we're going to have the 75th launch celebration, because it was 75 years ago that the Army launched the first launched the first rocket. Anyway, so there's going to be a celebration. Donald Trump's on the invite list, and whether he shows or not, I don't know. But we're going to get some pretty high-ranking speakers. Hopefully, somebody from the Army to take credit. That'll get some energy going. So we're excited about that. And there's been several events that we've had that are STEM related out at the museum that actually kind of build on certain things. Like we had a rocket propulsion a briefer that came in. We're hoping to get somebody from SpaceX and others. So we got some things leading up to that. And then, as our year goes on, we do stuff like Colonel Putman, who's retiring potentially out of Tampa, and he runs Space Scent over at Tampa. And we've done several events where he spoke at those. And so we're going to do either a change of charter or a retirement celebration. So that's called Beers on the Beach over at MacDill. So we do certain things like that. We do the military ball, but really it culminates in December with a conference called Space Power. How many people have been to Space Power from here? Wow. Okay. This coming December, it's absolutely essential, because that's kind of like our conference. It'll be held at the Hilton Hotel in Orlando. I run the golf tournament, which is rough duty, but it's held there, and it brings together everybody from an interest of the Space Force. And what's nice about it, we had close to 1,000 Guardians. So I don't know what the last conference you went to where you see more military than, I won't use the word sleazy, but contractors. It's really refreshing. It's one of those. It's really their Space Force conference. We're just blessed to be able to support it and do the best we can. But we get the leaders in; they get to talk to the Guardians and their people. So it's kind of a different conference from that standpoint. Makes it really good. And so those are some of it. I've ran in the T-minus 10-mile run. That hurt. We do the Space Force birthday, and then we kind of take off for the year. So that's our lineup, and then we're pretty agile. So like if something happens that the base wants to do something like Family Day, we're real good about going out and getting food and bringing it. Sometimes it's the small things, but you give back. and that kind of helps us. I put this together because so many charts that have, everybody's company, but each one of these companies and each one of these things have been near and dear to me because I've been able to, through the Space Force Association, engage with each and every one of those. I would never have known all these companies the way I know them today from, others that, just working without being part of the Space Force Association. And I can tell you almost now I have people in that I know in each one of these organizations. So I didn't put them up there without having known people or interfaced through SFA. And if you think about it, go, wow, okay, there's a lot of different companies, and some that that are very near and dear to here. So like Census up in Daytona, I mean they're an amazing company, and some of the stuff getting the word out about what's here. One thing I wanted to bring attention to, and Robert can talk a little bit about some of this if you get him offline, or probably talk too much about it, but just gonna say, okay, I've had enough. It's really great that he's moving forward and putting forward a National Spaceport Simulation Center. Spaceports are, becoming amazing. I mean, they're becoming global, and they're becoming more commercial. And there's still a military, commercial side of it, but the evolution of where it's going, and I'll talk a little bit about that, is pretty amazing. But he's putting up, we did a lot of work. You can see that we supported the Forge over at Patrick Space Force Base. He's taking that a little bit further and aligning to what they call a consideration of digital spaceport of the future. Again, in high level, it's basically taking a spaceport and turning it into an airport for broad, because currently, today, everybody comes in, they launch a rocket, and then everybody goes home. They want it to where it gets more into a situation to where, rockets are coming in, they're guiding them, rocket after rocket after rocket, like an airport. And so, and rockets will come up, rockets will come down, and so it's a pretty dynamic environment. So, highlighting the technology in that's going to be associated to that. I mean, you could take, evolve that to a lot of things. So you still got air traffic control. Now you got space traffic control. You got space weather. You got daily launch and demand. You got tactical responsive space. You've got a lot of different things that start to align to this. We have some initiatives. I'm working with Tom Wright to try to get a Space Force license plate. There's a big evolution of a process to that. I guess you have to, every year they look at how many license plates are, and then who didn't get a lot of sales, and they work them in there. So we're going to hope to revamp that. They have the shuttle license plate, which is now, I think, become a classic. But I think we'll look to try to replace that with the Space Force, so we'll see. We're also looking at how Texas kind of is investing a lot in space and where they're going. And Space Force Association has been a lot part of what's going on in Texas. Florida is really, in a catbird seat because you have Space Florida and so much money in what they do. So we're looking at where can we help the state that isn't part of Space Florida's mission, and what we're looking at is to try to help various companies learn about just different contracting methods and how to bid SBIRs, how commercial offerings, and what does that mean, and how does an OTA and the evolution, and things are going to start to go, well, we have to go faster, and so we have ability to have the state have us start to have sessions and that with various companies to help them understand and navigate what is, again, going back to what I consider I grew up in, is getting contracts and developing contracts and how to evolve that and grow work. So we're doing that. There's a new program where each college now is doing a thing called the Space Professional Societies. It's just getting off the ground. I know we have one for UCF and FIT, I believe, and so we got it for Nevada and a couple others, and so that's an outreach. And then there are SFA scholarships available and for space professionals, and there's some information I can give you on that if you have somebody who might be interested. It's always kind of a good thing. Okay, let's wake everybody up a little bit. How do you know if a volcano works?
Because it has a smoke.
What's that?
Has a smoke.
Smoke, okay, that's a good one. The only way you truly know is if you jump in. Okay. I used to use this because I was with Northrop Grumman, and we did a lot of briefings to high-ranking people. So I always used to use this term: when elephants wrestle, who loses? It's the grass. We always consider ourselves the grass. So when elephants wrestle, the grass loses. Okay. I hope everybody woke everybody up. Okay, which state? This is kind of which state hosts the most aerospace companies? Now I got my data from this thing called Google. So and I'll hopefully go back and try to validate it. But which state?
California.
Okay, did I hear what? No. Washington, the state of Washington has the most aerospace companies. I thought that was pretty interesting. Seattle, over 1,000 alone, or close to 900. So then you kind of boil that down and say, okay, where does Florida rank in that? And again, according to Google, Florida ranks number 2 in the number of aerospace companies. So I was going, okay, so let's dig about that a little bit further. And when you're talking 1,000, Florida has about 690 aerospace companies. Okay, now if you look at that a little bit further, out of 690 aerospace companies in Florida, ranking number 2, unless you consider foot size of engineers, and you could probably make around, there's a lot of different stats. But out of all of that, 495 are in Brevard County. 77% of all aerospace companies in Florida are in this county, which is the technology and future space aerospace hub. And I don't know if everybody, I was like, well, wow, that's pretty impressive. So we're in the county that has 77% of what makes up the number 2 position for the most aerospace companies. So that's something I think should make everybody feel like, wow, we are positioned in the right location. Okay, some significant needs in that. This is again, in my view, you could look at a lot of other things, but big things that are happening. STARCOM, a major training command, is moving. I have some history with distributed mission operations. They're doing training and space training. Starlink satellite from SpaceX moving here. That's going to be huge. That's a big rocket, and so that's going to be big. It's going to take and change the dynamics. I talked a little bit about spaceports. There's 60-some different spaceports, 40 or 60, I don't remember, but I know we did the Spaceport Alliance stuff, and all around the globe there's spaceports that are evolving and growing, some vertical launch, some non-vertical launch, some half vertical, half not, but every, it's going around the globe. And so there's those kind of things. Cell phones, you've got AST, which now put up cell phone in space. SpaceX is doing that, so eventually, everybody's going to be talking their phone up to satellites, and so that's evolving. They did the first phone call, a video call via satellite. So from here to there, it's pretty impressive. Optical communications, RF communications are kind of a thing of what I consider the past. RF to a satellite, you get much more security, not near the scatter, and some other things. Now you got a little weather thing, so maybe there's a hybrid option to that. Iron Dome, I think everybody's heard about that. Everybody's technology in that will all feed into that. That's going to be one of the biggest things. And so think about how you tie to that. And there's so many things that have to go in to actually developing that kind of technology. They're going to go and try to do fast. So what could you employ, small pieces and parts to that overall architecture that helps move that forward? And so tie into that. Space weather, traffic. I talked a little bit about air traffic, but now you got space traffic. Space weather's a big thing. We never really worried about, what the sun was doing and other things. But if you're launching and you're going through the ionosphere, you need to understand those kind of things. So space weather's now manufacturing, logistics. You're gonna have, 15 years ago, there wasn't very many satellites up. Today, you still got, we're gonna have 30,000. I don't want to get my numbers right, but in the future, when you get up to thousands and thousands of satellites over a certain period of time, you can understand there's going to be logistics. there's going to be sustainment, there's going to be evolution. And so that, once you launch a satellite up, and that's become almost a commodity now, is launching and putting a satellite up, and then, but once you get it up there, how do you repair it, how do you move it, how do you do those kind of things? I mean, it's pretty big. There's several companies that are doing space manufacturing, taking stuff and putting them in space in zero gravity, so that's a big growing market. Talk a little bit about blurred lines between, I always believe that eventually, because of distributed mission operations, that we will, the term train as you fight, but actually be able to run missions as things become more and more autonomous, that there's going to be blurred lines between what's reality and what's really real, so you can actually fight your wars as you would train. And so I think that's a big part. Central Florida is really tied to that because of the simulation type. I already talked about unmanned, autonomous everything. I think everybody kind of understands that we're going there, and then as we talked about, AI, ML everywhere. Anything you can do. Except I didn't write the speech using, maybe I should have. Challenges, we talked about it earlier, trying to get the right people, enough people to do what we're talking about. That's workforce demand, and I think that's where FIT, Embry-Riddle, UCF, and we talked about it's better to homegrown people that can step up to these jobs. Because I've been on the other side of defense companies trying to move people to Florida. They start out 80%, then they drop to 10%. And so why do they not want to move? It's just because that's where they grew up. That's where they know. And if you can foster that kind of environment here, they're not going to go somewhere else. We can grow families, we can grow innovation here. But that's going to require getting a lot of the workforce up. Continuing to expanding private-public partnerships. That's going to be as we evolve a little bit more. It isn't going to be all just defense. You got to have ability to talk about how your commercial set aligns. I already talked about spaceport, but if you start thinking about big rockets coming in, and every day more and more rockets, you kind of start to align with environmental constraints. There's a lot of competition. We talked about that somewhere else here. If you don't rise up and we don't get these people and we don't expand to meet the demand, we literally, there's plenty of competition, not only just with other states, but just globally, people that are trying to pick up technology and move forward. So we got a lot of competition. And then there's the death valley of a small company. How do you keep technology and keep growing that technology to where you could take it to a point where you start to actually evolve and become one of those companies that's 125 or 175, so you get bought and you can go drink umbrella drinks somewhere on a beach. So there's some aspects of that. So getting past the death valley, and I think some of the new ways that things are going to be procured are looking at that and how to take technology further and faster. In conclusion, I think I've kind of made the point that we're kind of sitting in what I consider a catbird seat. We at the Space Force Association Florida will continue to advocate, inform, bring people together. Our mission set really kind of keeps growing and moving forward. It's pretty exciting. I think if you're a technologist and you have a business, use the SFA to bring other people together, talk about what you're doing. Very similar to what you're doing here is the way you actually start to learn. I talked about you got to be able to get out. You got to talk to other people. Your network and the people is your most valuable of any company or of any kind of personality. Your network and who you know and what they're doing is your most valuable IP, in my opinion. There's other people that differ with that, but and we are global. I mean, there is there's a European office, you got South America, and we're working to broaden that. Thank you for your time. I hope I communicate a little bit. Nobody really knew about the Space Force Association. How many people know about it now? Yeah, there we go, 100 hands. So my mission's kind of accomplished today. We really